one of the most important reasons why people come to church on Sunday is to take the stuff of their lives and put it in the context of God, God's infinite love, the story of Christ in the world, to give context to our own travails, the ups and downs of our own life, to seek a way in which these have some meaning, or a way in which at least our own daily struggles somehow reflect God and God's concern in the world. It's that putting into context that I think often draws us to church and to a worshiping community. And that's true particularly in a week like this, though it's true every week. So we begin with the Old Testament lesson that we heard, and the good news that it represents. God, you recall, has led the people of Israel out of Egypt. He has defeated the Pharaoh's army. He has led them through the Red Sea. He has fed them in the wilderness. And he has brought them to the mount where Moses has ascended to receive the commandments. And all that God has required of them is to be faithful to him. But Moses goes up the mountain to converse with God and stays too long. The people get antsy. What happened to that God? Why hasn't he come down? Maybe he has died. And they get impatient and they say, well, maybe we should create for ourselves some new gods that we can worship who will protect us. And they create the two golden calves and they worship them. And God is really mad. God sees what's going on and he says to Moses, Moses, I am going to destroy those people. I brought them all the way out of Egypt. And look at what they reward me with. They turn to other gods immediately. I'm going to destroy them, but you, Moses, you are a good man. I'm going to create a new people for you to lead. And Moses jumps up and says, no, God. Don't destroy these people. And he uses two arguments with God. First, he says, what will the people of Egypt and of the world think if you destroy them? That you are a God who brought them just out into the wilderness to destroy the people on a mountain. That won't look good for you, God. And the other argument he uses is, remember the promise you made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The promise that you would stay with your people forever. And God is persuaded. And God changes God's mind and acts mercifully and tolerantly to the people of Israel. Gives them another chance. Wipes the slate clean. The idea that God changes God's mind is an important one. Because we all know our own guilts. We know how we could be judged if the rules were upheld all the time. We have a God who does not uphold the rules all the time, but out of love and commitment, wipes the slate clean, gives us a new life, a new chance. No matter how far we have strayed, God says again, all right, try again. Come to me, and I will be your God, and you are mine. That's the first piece of context we want to have for our lives this week. The second piece, of course, is the gospel week. There, Jesus' popularity has grown, and he has attracted to him all the tax collectors and sinners, prostitutes, all the riffraff of society, all the people who are pushed to the margins by the establishment, all those who are excluded from the life of the community. And Jesus has attracted them by his message of grace and forgiveness and acceptance and a new community, a new kingdom. And this acceptance of those who are deemed to be deeply unclean, those who have collaborated with the oppressing Romans, are among them. And this inclusion of them into his ministry is a great offense to the scribes and the Pharisees, because, of course, it's in violation of all the rules. It breaks down the walls of the community of which they are the leaders. And so they complained to him, and they said, where can your legitimacy be if you are so accepting of all these outcasts? And Jesus says, well, I'll tell you a parable. There was a shepherd who had 100 sheep, and one of them got lost, and he left the 99 behind so that he could go find that one sheep. And when he found him, he was so delighted. He brought him home on his shoulders, and he called together his friends, and he said, rejoice, share in my joy. I have found this sheep. And let me tell you another story. A story about a woman who had 10 coins, and she lost one of them. And she stayed up all night in that dark little windowless house that people in Palestine lived in. And she lit the lamps, and she swept the house until she found her coin. And when she found the coin, she went outside, and she called to all her neighbors and said, rejoice, rejoice with me, I have found the coin that I had lost. And just so, Jesus says, God rejoices. The sin of the Pharisees and the scribes in this case is that they cannot join in God's joy. They cannot join in the rejoicing. They cannot join in the joy of being a part of a community in which God loves each and every person, no matter who they are, and reaches out to the ends of the earth to include all people. It is one of those stories in the Gospels where laid out before the Pharisees is the opportunity to join a community where the borders are broken down and that is truly inclusive of all people. And they decline to join that community. They hold fast to their narrowness. So that's the second part of the context that we want to have for our life this week. As a parish, we of course have received news of a great tragedy. And that is what you've read in the paper, that the Reverend Greg Lisby has been arrested on charges of child pornography. Greg was, for those of you who don't know, the rector here for a couple of years, just before I came. So that's about almost 10 years ago. And Greg came and was very well loved. And Greg, I have to say, in following him, you can always tell how your predecessor was as a priest. And he was a good priest. And he did a lot of healing in the community. And he was, to this day, well liked by folks who carry him in their heart. But child pornography is no light thing. It is a very, very dark thing. It is the fruit of the exploitation of children. And there is no possible way of seeing light in that. And so for us, this event is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for Greg, a tragedy for his daughters and his husband. It's a tragedy for the church. It's a tragedy for the gay community. It's a tragedy which just has rings and rings of sadness to it. And there is no easy consoling way out of it. It is one of those tragedies we just have to live with. We just have to take, and we have to subsume into the gospel. We have to understand that the God who we encounter in the Old Testament story today, and the God who we encounter in the gospel today, has this capacity to bring infinite healing and love and life to the ends of the universe and to each and every person. Has the power, this loving God, to reach beyond the confines of our own minds, to reach to those who are the victims of child pornography, to reach to Greg, to reach to his children, his family, to reach the church. It is only by putting this kind of tragedy in the light and the context of a God who is infinite and powerful that we can carry on, that we can bring this to the feet of that living God. And only God can bring the healing and joy, once again, that God wants to bring to all of us. The readings, the gospel reading this morning is essentially about God's joy and wanting us to share it. And that's our calling this morning, is to trust in that living God so much that we can be joyful even in the face of the cross.